Wednesday, May 14th is the Lion Channel. I'm John. This is my manifesting journey in this channel. I talk a lot about the law of assumption, which is basically visualizing yourself as you fall asleep as the person that you want to become and imagining yourself as that person in bed at night when you're falling asleep. All right. But what if you are having trouble visualizing? What if you have never visualized before? Lisa asked the question. And thank you, Lisa, for commenting and asking that question. And from all the videos that I've watched, and mostly Elmer Locker, David's videos, it's a pretty common issue, okay? To the point where I think they put a label on it and call it aphantasia, okay? So I'm going to try and help as much as I can, and I'm going to give you some things that I think will help you. So the first thing would be, for me, anytime I know that I haven't been good at something, or it's something new or challenging for me, I make sure that my I am is in the right place. Okay, so the last thing I want to tell myself is that I'm not good at something, or this is going to be hard. Okay, so I always start, or not always, okay, I've just started this in the past, over the past month, okay, but this is what I do now is, like last night when I was going into that situation, I was saying, I'm confident, okay, I'm great at this, I'm great at small talk, okay, which I haven't been in the past because I was telling myself a different story. All right, so when you're going into visualizing, from here on in, tell yourself that you're great at it, that it's easy, that you've done this a million times. Or even if you have to tell yourself, the only reason I couldn't do this before was because I thought it was hard, or because I thought I wasn't good at it, but I'm good at it now. And even if you go into that next visualization and you're still having trouble with it, just keep telling yourself that, because it can only help, okay? It might not happen the first time or the second time or the fifth time or the 10th time, but if you keep talking to yourself like that and just telling yourself that you're good at everything, you could do this with everything, you're the best at everything that you do, eventually you're going to get better at those things, okay? It has to happen. Your inner dialogue has to eventually translate. When that becomes your dominant dialogue, that's going to translate into your experience, okay? So that would be the first thing that I would start with. And then my next suggestion would be to there's a book. It's called The Master Key System, and I got this book from David. David talks about this book a lot, okay? I will link it in the description. But there are exercises in, I think the first 6 or 7 chapters, okay, that kind of lead you up to visualization, so you're not just kind of okay, go visualize. All right, like the first thing, the first chapter, I think the exercise that he has you do is to just sit still for 15 minutes. Like when I started this, when I found this information, I've said before that I've been through the mill, okay, in terms of self-help. All right, this is 25 years in the making. So I've been through, I've practiced visualizing, I've practiced meditating, I had done all this stuff I just didn't know about the law of assumption. Okay, so once I needed to apply the law of assumption and I started that, it was pretty easy to just start doing that. Okay, but if you haven't had the past 20 years that I've had practicing this stuff, and you're just kind of coming out of the blue and finding this, and now it's like, okay, all you have to do is visualize. It might be challenging at first, and it might take a little practice. Okay, so in the first chapter, as I said, of this master key system, he just has you, I believe, sit still for 15 minutes, because he says that you have to be able to master your outer world, okay, which is your body, is part of your exterior world. Like, if you can't sit still for 15 minutes and control your body, your mind, you're not going to have any chance at controlling your mind. So you must start with your body. Okay, so I would suggest the master key system. Like I said, I'll link it in the description, and you can just listen to that. Even if you just wanted to fast forward to the exercises, okay, and just do the exercises to help with visualization, you can do that. But the book, I've made it, I think, through the first 7 chapters so far. And it really takes the stuff that I'm talking about here, that Neville Goddard talked about, that David Elmero Locker talks about. It really breaks it down to another level of understanding. Okay, so let me know if you start doing that, if it makes a difference. If it makes a difference for you, I would love the feedback. This way, if the question comes up again in the future, I know that this helped. All right. So I mentioned last night, if you watched yesterday's video, I was talking about how the past me, 6 weeks ago me, if I had to go into that event that I went into last night 6 weeks ago, it would have been a totally different experience for me, because it's just been that way in the past because of the labels, the I am that I was just talking about, that I had put on myself going into those events. Like, I am not a good small talker. I don't like to small talk. I don't like to meet these new people, but I put different labels on this stuff, and I'm seeing this as a simulation. So I had a completely different experience last night, and there were moments, okay, I just want you to know, there were moments I wasn't completely, that old person is, I don't know if they'll ever be completely gone. Okay, so those thoughts were coming in at moments, okay, and I felt them coming in at moments, so I just had to adjust and take a deep breath at moments and just remind myself, okay, this is a simulation. Act as if, I'm a millionaire, and, the thoughts would just kind of wither away. So by the end of the night, I was completely comfortable, and those thoughts weren't even there anymore. All right. So, but one thing I wanted to talk about, there was a glitch, as I talk about, the world's a simulation. This is a simulation. And a lot of times in these videos, I talked about the peacock the other day. There are glitches or signs or reinforcements to, remind you that this is a simulation, and one happened today. My wife sent me a video this morning. She has sent me videos in the past, like motivational videos and just stuff that we're kind of like sharing along our experience. And she sent me a video. She hasn't sent me a video in months, and she sent me a video of Tony Robbins, okay? Because in this video, Tony Robbins was actually talking a lot about this stuff that I'm talking about on here, and that me and my wife are both practicing. We're both practicing this stuff. Okay, so I watched the video. It was a great video. I will also link that video, okay, in the description. But so, you know, I messaged her, great video, and then a couple hours later, all right, now, again, I just want to make it clear, Tony Robbins has not come up in our house or in our conversation in probably years, okay? So she sent me that video. A couple hours later, I was listening to one of David's videos. It was a new video. I'd never heard it before. David, I've probably listened to 100 of his videos, probably 100 plus of his videos, okay, over the past 5 or 6 weeks. And he has not once mentioned Tony Robbins. Okay, so I'm sitting there watching this video, and he's telling a story of how he was in Florida, and somebody made a comment and said that you're going to be the next Tony Robbins. And he started talking about Tony Robbins. This is a couple hours after my wife sent me a video of Tony Robbins. His name, nothing has been said. Speaking of my wife, she just came in and dropped some papers on my desk. But, so I immediately had to pause the video and just, you know, call her up and say, you're not going to believe this, but you know that video you sent me this morning, Tony Robbins? David just mentioned Tony Robbins. Okay. And then I said, it's a simulation. It's a simulation. And then she laughed. But, so that's it. I'm going to try and keep this video a little bit shorter today. I'm just going to be, I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with this stuff. Today has been, normally I make these videos in one take, and I hit play. I do the, you know, I imagine a certain number of subscribers. I think I told you before, it's 35,000 subscribers, which I'm actually at 350 now, which is pretty trippy. And it totally made it so much easier to visualize 35,000. But, you know, I'll close my eyes, I'll imagine that, and then I'll just hit play and it flows. All right. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I've had to do like 10 takes today. So I'm just gonna keep this a lot shorter than it normally is. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know. And I love you all, and I'll talk to you later. See you.